2018 will go down in the history of India's housing sector for being the year where the Supreme Court finally came to the rescue of stuck home buyers desperate for some solutions to their hard-earned money siphoned off by promoter developers. Now today on Urban Reality, we examine some of the high-profile cases which are progressing in the courts to see whether India's judicial system and prudent orders can achieve that one simple goal, that is of delivering homes to 5 lakh plus stuck home buyers. Joining me on the show, Alok Dheer, he's the managing partner of Dheer & Dheer Associates, Sameer Jasuja, founder of Prop Equity. We also have with us Dinakar Singh, former Goldman Sachs executive and founder of Axon Capital, a hedge fund, who have accused IDEO management of embezzlement of assets of $200 million plus. We also have with us Abhishek Dubey, JP home buyer and lawyer, and Paramjit Singh Saini, a home buyer and financial creditor in the IDEO Hamlet plots. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. I think the very first question I'm going to ask Mr. Dheer. Mr. Dheer, finally forensic audits are being ordered by Supreme Court. I mean, Unitech is the one which has just come to light. There's Ansal, where UP RERA has ordered a forensic audit. Amrapali, we all know what's developing. In fact, now they've said that all assets of the promoters, even their personal cars, which are luxury cars, should be confiscated. Do you believe at the end of all of these forensic audits, we're going to discover what is already well known, which is that the money which was collected by home buyers has actually been diverted or siphoned off?
Yeah. Manisha, yeah, the issue is very serious and very broad-based. In fact, there has been some recognition of the aspect that all these builders and developers have collected monies from home buyers and has been misapplied and misutilized for either other projects or for siphoning off or for acquiring luxury assets, houses, cars, whatever. Clearly, the process of law has failed the home buyers in the past. I mean, irrespective of IBC, which has literally put the cat amongst the pigeons, the real problem is that over the years, there was absolutely no regulatory eye on what these people were doing, how they were collecting monies, and large amounts of monies, thousands of crores were collected by the home buyers. And perhaps at a point of time when the prices of the flats were increasing in value, the home buyers were also happy. They would invest monies and they would...
So my question is, we are aware of that.
We've now reached a situation, I'm coming to that.
Okay. In the forensic audit, what can we hope for after this?
With IBC, we've now reached a situation where Supreme Court has actually taken up the whole issue in its hand and is conducting forensic audits for one. Forensic audits will help identify from a judicial point of view that there has been a siphoning, the quantum and nature of siphoning, and perhaps also to identify what is the downstream, where has the money actually gone. And then the process of law will be utilized to recover that money back. Of course, the Supreme Court has put its effort behind it, and knowing the obvious, as you said, while the forensic audits will go on and identify and determine this in a process of law, the reality is that everybody knows that there is a large-scale siphoning of money, and the Supreme Court has put its foot down, has insisted upon Amrapali to bring the money back. They have been selling assets with respect to Unitech.
All right.
They've asked JP to pay almost 750 crores has been collected, which was for distribution, and now has been sent back to NCLT to keep.
All right. So you're hopeful now that at least the trail of the money will be found and there is some hope for the home buyers. Sameer Jasuja, is it that simple? Because if you look at the case like Amrapali or Unitech, most of this money is probably disappeared. In that case, even if you go out there, sell all the assets which are confiscated, what is it that the home buyers can expect at the end of the game? Can they at least expect enough money for completion of their flats?
You know, one will have to look at it on a case-by-case basis with what assets which are unencumbered that a developer is holding and how saleable they really are. In the current context where 90% of the developers are actually not doing any development in the country and we are down to the last 10%, I doubt very much whether these land banks, specifically category B land banks, will be saleable at all in the near future for them to be able to recover enough cash to start completing all the projects. So we are, the consumers unfortunately will have to wait for a bit longer than they probably are expecting, unless, you know, the consumers are actually willing to be a little smarter and they come out with the money themselves, put it in an escrow, get a get a contractor to come and develop that project. Like Suraksha and ARC that I know of has taken over a lot of projects of Unitech and other developers, and they are getting the consumers together, putting in some money and getting the consumers to put in the balance money to complete the project. We must recognize that once you've completed the project, the value of the project today will go up substantially, because nobody has any faith in under construction projects of at least category B developers. But once the property is ready, then there is a totally different dynamic to it. Properties are selling which are ready. So even if investors are stuck and if they come up with some mezz capital to complete that project from their own, then I think those projects will see the light of the day. Otherwise, I see no hope for those projects that are stuck with these developers. In order to recover money from them, could take as long as 5 to 10 years. So what are the consumers going to do? They've already waited for 7 to 8 years. Are you expecting them to wait for 15?
So very important point made. So forensic audits is the first line of justice where you actually find out where the money has gone, and then probably start pressurizing or court orders actually the sale of all the assets. Whatever money is recovered, post that, the buyers or home buyers will probably have to step in with mezzanine funding to get this completed. Abhishek Dubey, in JP case though, it's been a little bit of a disappointment when Supreme Court actually decided to hand over the 750 crores collected for home buyers back to NCLT. What is the home buyer's position there, and do you believe that, probably if your case had gone the Amrapali or Unitech way and not gone into resolution with bankers involved, you might have had a better outcome?
Let me first answer your second question. I believe that the IBC process is a better process because, for example, in Unitech and Amrapali, the construction hasn't even started. Like, there is no one who has come forward to, construct those apartments. There have been talks with NBCC, but the plan that they have proposed is also not very viable. Now, if you look at the whole scenario, what we need is a firm who can construct the apartments. Supreme Court obviously cannot construct these apartments or choose a firm, which can construct. There is only the IBC process where the process is laid down to choose a successful bidder. And already there are 5 bids for the JP project. Earlier there were 21 in the last phase, which started in 2017. And now there are 5, serious bidders. So basically the focus should be that who can actually construct these apartments. Because, there is, you cannot sell the assets and recover money because there is anyway no liquidity left in the market.
All right.
So basically, my view is that, IBC is a better process so that we can get a firm who can construct these apartments.
You're not particularly worried about that 750 crores which has gone back to NCLT, or are you still going to fight for it to be at least used for construction of the flats?
Yeah, so we have already filed the application and we have already argued the matter before NCLT, stating that this 750 crores should be, utilized for construction, and NCLT is to give, its order soon is what we are hoping, maybe after the winter vacations. So, NCLT, the process at the NCLT level, at the COC level has been going very smooth in the sense that NCLT has already ordered yesterday to the IRP to publish the list of all, home buyers who have financial creditors, because so that, there is out in the public that what is the exact percentage of,
outstanding liabilities.
The vote.
Okay, for secured financials. Okay. All right, Abhishek, I'll come back to you. All right, so you're saying that IBC is definitely a better outcome for home buyers. At least there's construction happening, and that 750 crores, you're hoping for a positive outcome from NCLT. Hopefully, it'll go back to constructing the Jayaprakash or JP Infra stuck projects. Now, let's shift focus to one of the most recent cases which came up for hearing today in the Supreme Court. That is a home buyer versus IREO case where the Supreme Court has asked government agencies, CBDT and CBEC, to look into alleged frauds. Now, both these agencies have submitted their findings. The next hearing is on January 9th. But just to go back into the history, this is a $1.5 billion investment, which was the largest foreign investment into Indian realty. The money came from a group of marquee investors and hedge funds. Some of them, of course, are Axon and the Children Investment Fund Foundation, which is a philanthropic fund. It's a pity that a decade plus later, these marquee investors have had to file a criminal complaint against the managers of the custodians of this fund, which is Lalit Goyal, Anurag Bhargav and Jaideep Agarwal. The former CFO here was a whistleblower who alleged that he said that huge statutory non-compliances were observed and 2 cases of fraud have also been observed. We've got one of the home buyers who've joined the whistleblower, Ramesh Sankha, as in that case, which is ongoing in the Supreme Court, Mr. Saini. So, this is a big fund with the promise of marquee foreign investors, which promised very, very good quality apartments, plots, villas and developments. But today, we believe that a lot has gone wrong. 4,000 approximate homebuyers are stuck and 400 of you have also joined into the case. What went amiss, sir?
In 2011, it started from 2011. 2011, they launched REO Hamlet, REO Rise in Mohali, Ludhiana. And now we are in 2019, just to start 2019.
Okay, so 8 years have gone by.
8 years have gone. People are waiting for their homes. Half-built, somewhere it is half-built, somewhere there is no development. Absolutely no work. People are waiting for their homes to shift. They have borrowed the money and they are paying the EMIs. And still they have not got home.
So you're saying you have actually added into your application that the promoters should not be allowed, or I should not even call them promoters. They're actually custodians of funds in India, or the management of the company should not be allowed to sell their assets and also leave the country. Mr. Dinakar Singh, 1.5 billion US dollars. That was a huge war chest to win this market, isn't it? But something has gone dramatically wrong. Here you have investors who are saying that there's been siphoning off of 200 million US dollars, assets at least worth that much. And you've got a whistleblower, CFO claiming that there's been non-compliance. You have home buyers who are waiting for their homes. Can you tell us why do you believe that this was not market conditions which is what the management is claiming, that the losses are only because of a soft residential market and not otherwise?
Sure. Look, Manisha, as you said, this was raised with the promise that this would be blue chip all around. A blue chip property for buyers of homes, a blue chip investment for investors, with the notion that the standards would be absolutely top-notch and blue chip. And what's happened, of course, is everything but. Now, the good news is that land in Gurgaon, when we invested, and home buyers initially were involved, this was 2005, 2006, 2007, this was farmland. Gurgaon was farmland at that time. Land was selling for a few crore per acre. Today, it's probably worth 5, 6, 7 times that. So the good news is that the value of the property has increased dramatically. Property in Delhi, in the outskirts of Delhi, that was bought as farmland, is now zoned as of even a few months ago, and is worth many times more than that as well. So the good news for us, I think, is that the underlying value has gone up tremendously, simply because, of course, India has grown. And the investor bet was that the middle class in India would grow and need housing, and that we could all participate in that. What's happened, though, is that these, call them promoters, but the reality is that they're crooks. What they have done along the way, Goyal, Bhargava, Stephen Wish, is simply swindle the money, believing that the money train would never stop. They would keep collecting advances, billions of dollars from homeowners, and they could always have the money to go and do more and do more and more, and they could steal along the way. And what's happened is that as the reputation declined, the money train stopped. Buyers stopped paying them up front. Because remember, the big shift in India has not been that home prices have fallen. It's that 10 years ago, everyone was eager and willing to pay a developer up front for homes. And now, if your reputation isn't good, you only get paid when the apartment's finished. So for someone like REO, where the reputation has fallen very sharply, the problem is that the money now comes in at the end. And if you stole all the money that you were given and entrusted to build a home, suddenly you're out of money to go and finish it. That's the problem. So the tragedy is that the people that put out their hard-earned money to buy these homes.
Mr. Singh, so we've gone through the complaint and we see that, you've claimed assets have been transferred, sold at lower value. But what is the court outcome, sir, that you're expecting right now, which will help your case?
I think the answer is very clear. So first, very quickly, let me just summarize. It's been 3 or 4 ways in which money has been stolen, and they're all very brazen, almost like a circus act. First, at the outset, you would set companies, hire the money, and you would essentially put to our companies later for huge profit. So in 2006, 2007, when Gurgaon property was being bought, that home buyers now have properties in. You buy the land with IREO money, and within 5 days, we have documented evidence of this. 5 days, he and his wife flipped it back to IREO for 6 times profit. Insane. Then, he would then set up a joint venture with he and his wife's property, his wife's Sapna, and collect 10% of every home. So you're a home buyer that is on the show. 10% of every penny he gave IREO, right off the top, went into his wife in his pocket. And then at the end, he would sell properties, but he moved it all into his own his personal holdings. When he sold it, it would go directly into his pocket as opposed to IREO. He essentially was stealing at the beginning, stealing along the way, stealing at the end. Now, the only good news is that the actual land and the property is valuable. So what investors are pleading for and begging for at this point is simply that we make this guy step aside, because we, the investors, can work with the banks, people like Kotak Mahindra that have been working with us actively and closely in recent days, to go bring the financing in to finish these homes. Because at the end of the day, home buyers and investors are on the same boat. Together, we can finish the properties which are valuable. We can deliver the homes that are important to deliver people that have paid for them. And in the end, result in value for everyone. But the critical thing is that no more money be stolen.
All right, let's just take a quick break. When we come back, we're also going to ask a very important question. What happens if you actually get the promoter developers into jail? Is that good really for the completion of the flats? Is it required at all or not? What can a stuck homebuyer hope for after the recent spate of forensic audits ordered by the Supreme Court in cases like Unitech and Amrapali? There have been several others also where promoters have been arrested for defrauding the home buyers. The cops have recently nabbed Nirmal Singh, Supreet Singh and Vidur Bhardwaj of 3Cs who are out on bail now. But the big question is, will sending them to jail achieve any goal? Mr. Dheer, I'm going to ask you now. This is the developer community gets very upset. They say, look, yes, the business has not happened as intended, but what are you going to do by throwing developers into jail? You've got Chandra Brothers in jail since 2017, but the flats are not getting completed.
To my mind, the developers are now irrelevant to the whole equation. The question of whether they are in or out, whether they are in the jails or out on bail makes no difference at all. Their integrity has been completely compromised. So therefore, they are irrelevant. As has been said at this forum and at other forums, the real issue here is for all the stakeholders to get together. We know that there is a big hole here. There is not enough money to complete the flats. Where is the money going to come from? Obviously, we've started the forensic audits. The Supreme Court has been trying to get money from the sale of all the assets, whether they're personal or other assets of these companies. That's another source of money. There is going to be money which is yet to be paid by the home buyers. Part of that money has yet to come. And then we have to bring in some mezzanine investors into the case also, who will bring the money in.
Like Mr. Dinakar saying that they're already in talks with Kotak.
So with all of these, and then you have to have a builder, a person who's going to do the construction activity, which is on a fee-based or on a cost-based.
So you're saying it's irrelevant whether you throw the developer who siphoned off the money into jail or not?
It's irrelevant from the perspective of completion of the flats.
But
yes, the signal has to be given. The direction has to be given in this country that if somebody is messing around, is taking money which is in trust, this is for the beneficiaries' money. This is the Sistu EQ. This is money held in trust insofar as these people are concerned. And there is obviously breach of trust. There's siphoning of money. So somebody will have to pay the price for doing these activities which are criminal, and we'll have to at the same time see that the money which we can extract back from these activities and utilize back towards the building of the flats.
At least we have to make sure that the developers cannot influence negatively any kind of audit process or, put any spade in the work of, let's say, selling of the assets, because that has also been a big problem in the Unitech case. But look at the number of builders who have gone into jail this year. I mean, you've got Anil Mithas of Unnati Group, Divakar Sharma of Shubkarma Group, Premia Group director was arrested. Amrapali Group directors have been in police custody. Unitech promoters have been behind bars since 2017. And there are 3 directors of Vigneshwara Group who've been behind bars since 2014-15. My question, Samir, is that, I mean, you have this conversation which is happening in organization or an industry organization like Narrateco that before the end of this financial year, you would probably see 70 more arrests. Now, this is not a good number either for the industry or as a whole. I mean, to establish that there's so much more fraud in the sector. But would you believe that the developers here are really out of the equation once forensic audits prove that money has been siphoned off? It doesn't matter whether they're inside the jail or outside. It's more important to throw them in jail to show or send a very strong signal.
Manisha, I would like to suggest two, three very important things over here, and I think we'll be able to fix the system even better. First of all, I think the developers should be behind bars, and the privileges that they are enjoying behind bars, which we all know, it's come out in the papers with respect to the Unitech brothers, they should be looked into, because it's very important that the fear amongst the developers has to set in properly, that if they go and commit a crime like this, they will not get any respite even behind the bars. That's very important. The second and most important thing, Manisha, is they have to be, while the IBC process goes on, while the courts intervene and look into asking for more deposits and selling of land banks, it is very, very important that the promoters are removed from the board and the functioning of the company, because there's a complete conflict of interest. They are not interested in selling those land banks at market rates, because they still feel that that is their land bank that they own, that they want to realize a better premium out of that land bank, and they themselves are resisting to sell those land banks and create liquidity. That's a very important point. Also, we all know that we have a double economy over here. While they are in control, certain land banks are being sold in cash to generate more cash income, and that money is further getting siphoned. So there is a serious issue with respect to them being given control to liquidate land banks, complete conflict of interest. And lastly, the most important plug hole, the RERA loophole has to be plugged, that while the projects are under construction and you are putting money in escrow, but if the same developer is going to be the contractor and is going to be able to take out all the money from the escrow to develop projects and then also pocket that money, that's also not good enough. There has to be serious audit. Now, what's happening in ILFS, I think it has to be done the same way in all these developer companies, where a very fair, ethical, integral board needs to come in, and you'll see that land banks will get liquidated faster, problems will get solved much more quicker, because I don't think the promoter developers, even when they're sitting behind bars, are interested to sell their land banks at market rates, and they are resisting.
So you're basically actually corroborating what Mr. Dinakar Singh is saying, that get the custodians or the management of IREO out before we can even put a stop to any kind of fraud. Mr. Dinakar Singh, I mean, looking at the recent judgments which have come out, whether it's forensic audits which have been ordered or, arrests of builders and developers which has been ordered, has that restored your faith in the Indian judicial system a little bit, that whatever the saga might be around IREO, you will at least see some justice depending on what has been the malfeasance here?
I think that the court will suspend matter, as Samir is in somebody saying, we beg and plead that the court will do two things. That the High Court and the Supreme Court together will first make sure any further transactions that are done only for the benefit of home buyers and for investors, and not to go funds out.
All right. Last question to Abhishek Dubey. Abhishek, I mean, now we know that the JP case has moved pretty far into the resolution process. There has been some amount of construction also happening, which is a good thing. You're saying that there is an IRP which is keeping an eye. How soon do you think that the investors will heave a sigh of relief and say, hey, now I know in the next 2 to 3 years, I'm going to get my flats?
So we're very hopeful that, after the restart of the insolvency process, when Supreme Court disposed of the writ petitions, and the NCLT process and the IBC process started, it's been going fine, and we are already at the bid stage, and we are hopeful that within a period of 270 days, starting from August 2018, we will have a bidder and we will have things in place moving forward for JP, because ultimately what we need is someone who can construct the apartments.
Right.
And if the 750 crores also comes in with the COC, so that it can deploy it for construction, that will expedite the process very much because, the IRP is acting as the managing director of the company, and therefore, the work, the functioning of the company is going on. So the construction can go on. The only worry is that some of the, home buyers of JP have approached the Supreme Court again. So the hearing has to happen. And once, if at all Supreme Court admits that matter, then there is a worry that the NCLT will take a back seat and, look at what Supreme Court is saying. So I hope that, the NCLT, the IBC process continues separate.
And does not face another roadblock from Supreme Court. All right. I mean, that's very interesting. Okay, final word from you. Completely in alignment with what Mr. Dinakar Singh, the investor, is saying. Is that what is in the best interest of the home buyer of IREOs as well?
Right. This management must go. And lest some serious management, serious people should come in and they should complete the jobs.
Okay. But let's wait for all the charges, one way or the other, to get proved in the court. I mean, that's another thing. But home buyers' homes definitely have to be completed. There is absolutely no question about that. Alok Dheer, Sameer Jasuja, Mr. Dinakar Singh, and of course, we've got with us Abhishek Dubey, Paramjeet Singh Saini. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the show today. I'm going to just bid 2018 a goodbye and hope that in 2019, we'll have many more stories or shows to do around completion of these stuck projects rather than either judicial process or IBC or any other process still happening in terms of completing them.